Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's get started with Week 29's Word Nerd Wednesday. Now, this entire series, I've been taking a close-up look at the words that come up during my Third Age Thursday readings from Cirion and Eorl in Unfinished Tales. Last week, we took a close look at the King's Reckoning, the calendar system used in Gondor for the entirety of the Second Age and much of the Third, despite that not really being a word nerd thing. Today, we're going to look at horses, specifically Felrof and his descendants, the Miras. Now, when we get to the Third Age Thursday reading tomorrow, we'll get to a moment when Eorl, on his way south, is passing near to Lothlorien, when a white mist comes and drives away the gloom of Dol Guldur. One of his men thinks this means that the Lady of the Golden Wood is on our side. Eorl responds, maybe, but at least I will trust the wisdom of Felrof. So, what I want to do is start with a footnote to that passage, which we won't have time to get to in the reading tomorrow. Felrof is Eorl's horse. In Appendix A2 to The Lord of the Rings, it is told that Eorl's father, Leod, who was a tamer of wild horses, was thrown by Felrof when he dared to mount him, and so he met his death. Afterwards, Eorl demanded of the horse that he surrender his freedom till his life's end, in Wergild for his father, and Felrof submitted, though he would allow no man but Eorl to mount him. He understood all that men said, and was as long-lived as they, as were his descendants, the Miras, who would bear no one but the king of the Mark or his sons until the time of Shadowfax. Felrof is a word of the Anglo-Saxon poetic vocabulary, though not in fact recorded in the extant poetry, meaning very valiant, very strong. Now, here's the thing. There's not a lot to add to what Christopher explains there in the footnote. Indeed, Felrof is a combination of two Old English elements that could mean very valiant, very strong. A look at the Bosworth-Toller Anglo-Saxon Dictionary says that rof is an adjective meaning valiant, stout, strong, but adds that it is only used in poetry. Now, sure enough, they reference a line in Beowulf that uses rof, R-O-F, translated by Shippey as fierce, and translated by Seamus Heaney as fabled. Now, okay, I can certainly see how fierce or fabled can work as valiant in either case, and it's not like Felrof isn't both fierce and fabled too. But let's look at the first half, fella. That same Bosworth-Toller Anglo-Saxon dictionary tells me that it means many or much, and it references, well, many examples. But when I dive deeper in the online etymology dictionary, I learned that Old English fella comes from a common Germanic adjective that goes back to a Proto-Germanic source from which German gets the word viel, V-I-E-L, which means the same thing, much or many. And as it turns out, that itself comes from a Proto-Indo-European root pele, meaning to fill, and from which we get words like full and folk, but also all the polywords, polygon, polymath, polygamy, and so on. Word nerdery. So that's Felrof, or very valiant, much valiance. Valiance. Did I just make valiance a noun? I did. It's not a noun. Okay, just want to be clear. So let's move on to the Miras, the strong, intelligent horses of Rohan that would bear no one but the king of the Mark or his sons. Miras is the plural form of Old English mir, which is another word for horse, in addition to eo, which I talked about recently as well, like eotheod. Now, according to the OED, it's a native Old English word for horse, related to the words for horse in a bunch of Germanic languages. Surviving instances of the word occur chiefly in Old English poetry, so maybe it was a fancy word for a horse at one time, though it seems to have been a fancy word for just any old horse, as opposed to a fancy word for a fancy horse. Now, interestingly, that word, as a word for any old horse, has pretty much died out, but a descendant of that word still exists in modern English as a word for a very specific type of horse. After all, an adult female horse is called a mare today. But that's not the only modern descendant of the word mare. Another word deriving from this word is the modern word marshal, with an SH, not a TI. That's an unrelated Latin word. Marshal is a high rank in the military or law enforcement, like a field marshal or a fire marshal. That's indirectly related to mare, because it comes from an Anglo-Norman word, Mariscal, meaning horse servant. it's probably Mariscal, actually. I just don't know how to pronounce Anglo-Norman, okay? Can we be clear? Now, this would have been a high-ranking official in a medieval court whose role evolved out of a humble but important role, the person who took care of the horses. But Marshal is only an indirect descendant of Maire, having come from an Anglo-Norman cognate of the word rather than the Old English word itself. The Anglo-Saxons borrowed the Norman word later, but the earlier Old English word for horse servant was actually horse-thane. And finally, before you ask, no, the English word mare, derived from Old English mare, is not related to the word nightmare. That mare, the mare in nightmare, is actually from an unrelated Germanic word meaning a goblin, demon, or other supernatural creature that was believed to sit on a sleeping person, causing bad dreams or even sleep paralysis. Now, coincidentally, though the word mare in this sense is unrelated to our modern word for a female horse, those mythical creatures were often believed to be female. Probably not horses, though. Folks, that is it for today's Equine Word Nerd Wednesday. Come back next time as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there is a word you want to know more about, please let me know by emailing barnabas@theprancingponypodcast.com. And please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and a whole lot more. And join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps. And everybody, please follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.